order the August 6th, 2020 Board of Commissioners regular session. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Tommy Miller,
Present.
Commissioner Gary Tompkins,
I thought I saw Gary earlier. I do not see him currently. We'll excuse him for the time being.
Commissioner Kathy Sue Petty,
Here.
Commissioner Rochelle Hatcher,
Present.
Commissioner Jake Smith,
Present.
Commissioner Steve Frisbee,
Present.
Commissioner Derek King.
Present.
We have quorum.
Okay, after a moment of silence, Commissioner Miller will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag of the United States of America,
for which it stands,
It just stands.
one
one
nation,
nation, under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty
liberty
and justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Amen.
Dane, Commissioner Tompkins is trying to get in.
Okay. I'm looking at the attendees now. I do not see him in the attendees. Is he a call-in?
Not sure.
Let's
He's
see.
he's actually shown in the panelists section. He may need to be removed.
I don't have him in there.
I see him. He's right.
Yeah, I don't have them either.
You also have a phone call listener that
He's,
with his hand up.
Gary is in the attendees list.
Oh, yep, I do
I
see
see
him
him
there.
now. Yep.
Yep.
There we go.
Now he's in. Yep. All right. He is promoted.
Gary, are you there?
May take a second. Well, he was there and I promoted him, but did he? Oh, there he is. He's in the chat. So
Okay.
Yes, he should be here. Gary, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. I apologize. This is the reason why we need to deal with rural broadband. So challenge this evening. So sorry about that.
And your audio sounds really different tonight too. So
Does it? Okay.
all right. All right. Can I have a motion to approve the August 6th, 2020 Board of Commissioners regular session agenda as presented?
I'll move
So
Miller.
moved.
Have a motion by
Support,
Miller,
Vetty.
support by Vetty. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Petty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
Motion carries. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Board of Commissioners July 16th, 2020 regular session as presented?
So moved, Tompkins.
Support, Betty.
Moved by Tompkins, supported by Vetty. Any discussion? All those in, actually, we need a roll call again.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Petty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
Okay. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is citizens' time. During citizens' time, the board chair shall recognize any person wishing to address the board. A person recognized by the chair shall call in and state his or her name and community of residence. A person may address the board only once on the same matter during each period set aside for citizens' time. on the agenda and only on matters that are relevant to county government. The chair shall control the length of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes, and shall not allow negative personal comments. Please mute your TV or computer when calling in, as background sound will generate feedback. Please note there's an approximately 3-second delay between the live meeting and the YouTube feed. Is there anyone that would like to address their commissioners?
We
There
have
isn't.
someone with their hand raised.
Okay.
I will put them on allowed to talk. There we go.
Thank you.
Hi, guys. It's Melinda Weaver. I was just letting you know that's my cell phone number on the call. That's all I want to tell you. Sorry.
Right.
Oh, no problem. I'll rename you there.
Anybody else like to address their commissioners? Austin, is anybody in the queue?
There is no one in the queue right now that has their hand raised or anything, and there are no call-ins.
Okay, we'll give it about 30 seconds. Okay, we'll move along. Elected appointed county officials comments. Are there any elected officials who'd like to comment tonight?
We have
Couple.
Helen and Doug.
Let's go with Helen.
All right.
Ladies first.
Helen, your mic is muted, but you are allowed to speak now.
Thank you. It's Helen Guzzo, who I am the manager of Calhoun County Senior Services, and just really excited to that senior millage passed on Tuesday with a vote of 82% approval rating. We just want to thank all the commissioners and the county administration for their support. I want to thank Richard Lindsay and Sherry Sherbin from Senior Times, who chaired the Renew for Seniors campaign. And we also had a senior millage allocation committee member, Diane Peters, who was the treasurer. They did a really wonderful job of getting into all of our local papers, being on the front page of the Marshall Chronicle Advisor, getting a really great story in the Inquirer. Tim Collins from WBCK interviewed me twice. It was just a great swell of community support. Senior millage did pass in 2010 with 79% approval rating. So the Renew for Seniors Committee, Richard Lindsay, and Sherry Sherbin, they ordered and purchased 500 signs that appeared all around the county about 3 weeks before the vote. And I just look forward to continuing these infrastructure programs. Senior millage funds 22 different programs run by 10 trusted nonprofit partners. In 2019, we assisted 6,500 seniors, and we look forward to continuing that tradition of responsive service to the community. COVID has affected all of our lives and all of our programs. Currently, the Miriam Birch Adult Daycare Center is not reopened. It's the only program that is not back and running. Our senior centers, the Heritage Commons in Marshall and Fork Senior Center in Albion, are currently closed, but they have been engaging all of their members with phone calls. And it's just unclear when adult daycare or the senior centers will be safe to reopen. But Carroll Services has ramped up its telephone reassurance program, and Senior Millage has greatly expanded its funding of food distribution programs, and Meals on Wheels has expanded. So just really excited about the community support for Senior Millage, really grateful. A great vote of confidence for the responsiveness of the county and the responsiveness of the services that are being provided. I just wanted the commissioners to know that On July 27th, the county purchasing issued a request for proposals for senior millage strategic projects. This uses personal property tax and firekeepers revenue sharing that has not been budgeted. That's in our fund balance, where the county is making $700,000 available for projects between $5,000 and $250,000 to support creative one-time solutions, one-time enhancements to programs. So this is not ongoing continual contractual funding, but at one-time projects that will come before the Board of Commission for final approval in early October. So some exciting things that might be able to be funded through that use of funds. Our contractual spending, we have 11 of our 22 programs up for renewal for the 3-year term. That request for proposal will go out probably September 14th, and they will come before the commission for approval in November. So just thank you all for your help and your support. And Senior Millage is going to continue to do terrific things for older adults in the county.
Thank you, Helen. Doug Farrell.
Good evening, commissioners. I just want to say thank you so much for your support of making sure the parks was on the ballot. And we passed, I'm sure many of you saw, at 61%, which we were really excited by. We met with the Parks Commission today, just as kind of that initial talk through the election results and get a plan moving forward. And I just want you to know that over the next few the weeks and months, probably the next month or so, we'll be meeting with Kelly, be meeting with finance, really to finalize all the millage plans for 2021. So you can see how that money is going to be used. And I just want to say thank you for listening to your communities. I know it wasn't a unanimous thing to get this on the ballot, but you know, I think we all were listening to our communities to say, are parks something that you're willing to pay extra for? And I'm so excited that the vote went the way it did. I think COVID has really affected how people use parks in our community. I know for our parks department, they are busier than they have ever been. So, you know, I think in a strange way, COVID probably helps people see the value for parks and help the vote in the end. And all that said, I just want you all to know I'm available if you want to talk through the millage, questions, concerns that you have, or concerns you're seeing from the community. I'm available. I know I'll be working with Kelly a lot in the near future, so I'm sure she'll be tuned in to how this is structured and how it's going to work for those questions. So I just appreciate all your time, and myself, the Parks Commission, and the entire county are very excited for the millage.
Thank you, Doug. Clerk Hinckley.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chair, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. Before you
Okay.
get started, I just wanted to offer you and all of the local clerks congratulations on how well the vote was handled on
Yes.
Tuesday. It was an impressive job. So in your first run, we appreciate all your good effort.
Thank you very much. The local city and township clerks did a phenomenal job. We had more AV counting boards than we've ever had this August election, and they just did well, and I'm so proud of each and every one of them. And yes, we had a 25.9% turnout this election. 4 years ago, we had a 14.08% turnout, so that is phenomenal. To see people getting excited and getting out to vote or mailing in their vote, one or the other. Either way, they made their voices heard. And so I'd like to say congratulations to everyone who had a primary competition at the August election, as those who won. Congratulations. And to the proposals out there, from county on down to local, those that passed, congratulations to them as well. And so we've begun canvassing the election starting this morning. Our canvassers arrived at 9 a.m. and they will continue that until the canvass is complete, probably into next week. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. And again, thank you all very much for your support, getting out and voting for all these wonderful proposals. I'm excited to see the senior millage renewal and the parks new proposal pass, and that'll be great things for the citizens of Calhoun County. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Did the prosecutor ever make it in? I don't see him.
I'm not sure. I gave him a couple of ideas for troubleshooting, but I don't see him, so maybe it didn't work. And he's getting a strange error message that I think will take some help from IT to troubleshoot.
Okay.
Yeah, later.
Right. All right, we'll move along. First order of special business tonight is a presentation by the Michigan Association of Counties Executive Director, Steve Curry. Steve, you're still muted.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, great. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. My name is Steve Curry. I'm the Executive Director of the Michigan Association of Counties. First of all, I want to thank you and your staff for everything you've been doing for your residents. This is a tough time for everyone, and counties are on the front lines of this pandemic, whether it's the sheriff's department, the health department, or just the county employees at the offices trying to make sure business keeps going. So thank you for that. If you want to go ahead and advance to the next slide. Just a little bit about MAC. Most of you know we have 16 members elected. There are 2 seats from each of the 6 regions. We typically meet in person 4 times a year. We have been meeting virtually, much like you are. And obviously our legislative conference is virtual, our annual conference is virtual, but we will still be having board meetings. We will be having elections at this conference. We have seats up in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And in our large seat, there's only 1 new open seat that is being run, and that is in Region 4. Go ahead and next slide. This is your MAC leadership team. Veronica Kleinfeld from Macomb County is the president. Phil Kyers is first vice president from Ottawa County. Stan Ponstein, second vice from Kent County. And newly, well, he still has to get through his general election, but Ken Borton won his primary this week in the 105th. He's from Otsego County. Next slide, please. So these are some of the priorities that we started working on in this legislative session. We haven't taken our eye off the ball with these. With the way session has been lately, not a lot of things are getting done, but we are still pushing for these to get done this session. And I'll talk a little bit about more of these later in my presentation, but this is kind of like our list right now, outside of obviously budget issues, which I'll talk about as well. Next slide, please. So just to touch on some of the executive orders, obviously virtual sessions, which we're doing now, we're allowed. That's Executive Order 154. That's the most updated one. We've got indoor gathering restrictions to 10 people, except in Region 6 and 8. And of course, 6 and 8 have a 25% max capacity, or 250 people, whichever is smaller. FOIA did have some leeway, but normal operations for FOIA resumed in June. Courts' normal filing deadlines resumed in June. And non-essential workers, any work capable of being performed remotely must be performed remotely. However, office work may be performed provided work is done in conformance with the guidelines in EO 161. So just to highlight some of those executive orders. Go ahead, next slide, please. So a couple COVID aid items that are coming through the state. There's 2 pots of money. First is the hazard pot of money. This is a $100 million pot that's available on a first come, first serve basis. It's for your law enforcement, EMTs, paramedics, 911 operators, local corrections officers, airport public safety. Applications are between now and September 30th. $1,000 per person, maximum of $5 million to any local unit. Applications for the first round are September 20, and they must be paid to eligible personnel by September 30. And payments from Treasury will go out no later than November 14th. Next slide, please. The other pot of money is the public safety health payroll reimbursement. This is 200 million for basically all the locals, with the exception of those 4 counties and then the city of Detroit, which received direct funding from the federal government. Applications are due within a week of the signing of HB 5265, which is expected to be this week. These are for expenses for April and May, distribution by September 18th. If there are rounds available if there's funds available after round 1, then there'll be a second round, and those expenses will be for the April, May, June, July months, and those distributions will occur November 7th. Next slide, please. August revenue sharing. So obviously August revenue sharing payment is not going to be going out. However, there will be COVID aid funds that go out. So, and they will be an increased amount. So basically $97 million in statutory revenue sharing payments will not go out in August, but 150 million will go out in its place. It's a distribution. The funds must be allocated to expenses related to COVID, including your public health and safety payroll expenses. We are expecting more guidance from Treasury next week. And every county who's receiving revenue sharing payments will receive these funds. So we're anxious to see what the state says versus what the feds say. Obviously, they can't get any looser than the federal guidelines, but I think their interpretations are going to be a little different, which is going to allow for you to use these funds to cover more payroll, which will hopefully free up general fund funds and be a net even for you folks, for the counties and locals across the state. But we'll have more information next week on that. Next slide, please. One of the other priorities I touched on was establishing stable court funding for trial courts. This was a legislation that was passed a few years ago, basically when the Cunningham case came through, didn't allow counties to charge court fees, which was a huge hit to counties across the state. It would have cost about $300 million. They passed legislation that allowed fees to be charged. However, they put a sunset date on it, which is October of this year. We do have legislation ready to go. It was set to be actually voted on last week. However, with the Senate COVID issue, it did get pushed off, but we are expecting when they come back, they're not going to be in session next week either, but when they come back the following week, we do expect that sunset to be extended. So those court fees will continue to be allowed to be charged. We are still working with the Trial Court Funding Commission on the recommendations and the legislators to make changes to the court system and how court fees are charged and who charges them and where do they go. But it was too big of an apple to take on right now. And really in such a short amount of time. That's why we need that sunset bumped out so we can continue to retain those fees. Next slide, please. 4-year county commissioner terms. This is something Mac's been working on for a while. We are one of 5 states that have 2-year terms. We have 4 pieces of legislation, 2 Senate bills, 2 House bills. Our House bills are actually in the Senate right now. We are working with the Senate to get those passed through. The issue right now is each party is concerned about which year to have the election. Is it to be on a gubernatorial election or the other 2-year election? So each party is going back and forth. We're hoping to get through that, especially this year, and get these passed. This is actually the farthest we've gotten this legislation. We pretty much get it introduced every session. So next slide, please. So House Bill 5623 extends binding arbitration to sheriff's corrections deputies. We are opposed to this bill. We have been for many years. We believe it usurps local control, imposes new financial burdens at a time of fiscal crisis. It could drag out negotiations. It could potentially create greater disparities between bargaining units within the county, and it could potentially worsen unfunded liabilities problems. So this is something we are opposing right now. We'll keep you updated if the legislation starts to move, but just wanted to give you an update on that. Next slide, please. So that's kind of the legislative side of things. We are still fully functioning office. We are still going to continue to have our policy committees. They will be virtual for the rest of the year. We will not be having any in-person meetings in our office. This is when our policy committee meetings meet. Our policy committees are basically our guidance for our legislative direction. If you'd like to participate on any of these, we'd love to have you. Just let us know. You can fill out an application at our website, and we'll get you on one of those committees. Next slide, please. We do have a MAC pack. We appreciate those who can participate in it. We do have 27 former county commissioners now serving in the legislature. We incidentally had 6 or 7 county commissioners that ran for state house and won their primaries earlier this week. So we'll be adding to that number. I think we only lose 2 that are term limited. But we use this pack to support those former county commissioners in the legislature, and obviously some other legislators that are in charge of some committees. So we'd love your participation if you can. This is your MAC Government Affairs team. Dina Bosworth's our director. Of course, she's been with MAC for a long time. Megan Kite's on her 3rd year. She handles our Judiciary and Human Services issue. We are in the process of hiring another government affairs person. We've been doing interviews the past 2 weeks, hope to have someone started by the end of August. They'll handle transportation issues and some of our ag issues and some general government issues. Next slide, please. Our next year legislative conference is April 27th through 29th. That'll be in Lansing, hopefully in person. We'd like to see everyone again. And our virtual conference is going to start in a couple weeks. It's going to be over a 2-week time period. There's going to be 2 sessions a day. We will be voting on policy platforms. And the highlight of this conference is we have secured Michigan State basketball coach Tom Izzo to speak to the group. That'll be August 20th at 11 a.m. He will be live. He will be answering questions. So registration deadline for the conference is tomorrow. So if you haven't registered yet, please do so. We'd love to have you participate. Next slide. These are our various communication tools: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You know, we do a podcast. Hopefully you're getting our weekly updates or every other month newsletter. We're trying to be as an information source as much as possible without being overwhelming. Hopefully you found that during this crisis. We've obviously been able to back off some of the daily emails and things like that, but we do want to be a resource to you, especially in these times when you got a lot of information flying at you. We wanted to make sure that, you know, we're a bit of a filter so you're not getting too much. So hopefully you found us helpful during this time. Yeah, next slide. And that's my presentation. So again, I appreciate your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions folks may have.
Any questions for Mr. Curry?
Mr. Chair, can I just make a couple of comments?
You may.
First, thanks, Steve, for joining us. He mentioned the virtual conference that's coming up, the summer conference, and the deadline is tomorrow. So far, I have registered Commissioners Hatcher and Tompkins. If any of the others of you want to register or previously asked to be registered and don't know if that happened, please reach out to me and I can make that happen by tomorrow. And then also the federal stimulus package is still out there, and within the next 24 to 48 hours, I know Mac's been helping to advocate on behalf of us, but what we really need is more flexibility for the federal funds through the coronavirus act to be able to use that for lost revenues and also extend it through the next year. So hopefully you've received information. I'll probably send it again tomorrow. We get a lot of information from the National Association for Counties, and then also MAC to reach out to Senator Peters and Congressman Amash to lobby to get those things through. So right now it's kind of been stuck in Congress, and they're about ready to go on a break possibly.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly, for bringing that up. I apologize that I didn't touch on that. Yeah, that is something that is top of mind right now. And Kelly said it right. It's flexibility. If there is going to be more funding available, we'd like to see that funding come directly from the federal government to locals, not through the states, because we know what happens when that happens. So appreciate that. And Kelly's been a great resource for my team. I know she's been working very closely with Dina on gathering some data and on some projects and things like that. So we appreciate her support as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, just one comment. I think that the 4-year bill for commissioners is outstanding. I hope that gains some traction and actually sees a pass here in this legislative session.
Well, we've got a lame duck session coming up, so you never know what happens during lame duck, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's a tough world to be in, and always being in campaign mode every 2 years. So yep. It makes it hard for everybody. All right, we'll move along, and we appreciate your time and efforts tonight, Mr. Curry.
Thank you.
You bet. Next, I'll turn it over to Kelly, and she can introduce our next guest.
Okay, so next item on the agenda tonight under special order of business is our annual audit presentation. So the county's 2019 audit was completed and submitted to the state on June 30th, which is the deadline. And so now tonight we are just asking our auditor, Nate Alderman, to do a quick overview of the audit results, and then we'll ask you to take action to formally accept that audit. So Nate should be unmuted and brought to the front if he's not already.
Yep. Well, thank you everyone for your time. Just since this is my first time meeting with you, wanted to give it just a quick introduction.
Nathan?
Yes.
I can barely hear you.
You can barely hear me.
That's better.
Okay.
Much
Can
better.
you hear me okay now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So just as a matter of introduction, my name is Nate Balderman. I was the principal in charge of your audit. I work out of our Jackson office, but have worked for Raymond for 24 years, doing exclusively government and not-for-profit audits. So this is the specialty we do at Raymond. We do over 20 counties across the state of Michigan. And I was trying to look back because I used to work on Calhoun County's audit a few years ago. I thought a few years ago. It's actually been since 2009 since I worked on the audit, but I guess time flies. So tonight I'm just was going to walk through a couple of different documents. If you go back to the first document, the one titled 2019 audit, this is your comprehensive annual financial report. It's a 192-page document, and within that is various information that you would be able to find different information in the normal course if you were sitting in a room and you had paper copies of the document in front of you. I walk through page by page to try to take you to each piece of information, but I think tonight, just in the interest of time and trying to get through things, I won't do that. But within this document, you'll see various information. I'm going to try to do math quickly in my head. Could you type page 57 out of 510 if you go to in the PDF? Yeah, so I'll just try to tell you the overall results of the audit. And so this audit we started this audit back in March, and about halfway through, we were basically ordered out of buildings and out of the field. And so the second half of the audit was really performed, remotely, 100% remotely. I think Gerald and everybody else at the county for working through us in this process. Definitely was a different process to go through. But I think overall, considering everything, I think it went well. There were various things that we had to deal with throughout the audit process, but I think overall, in the end, we were able to get ultimately what you needed, which was an opinion on the financial statements and issuance in time. So there were several counties that I know of across the state that were that needed to get an extension just because of the inability to react, and I think it speaks well to the county that things slowed down for a little bit, but we were able to step back up and get this finished by the deadline. So within this document, you'll see various things. We do have an unmodified report. Our report is, we do rely on the audits of 3 separate components that are audited separately. That's the delinquent tax revolving fund, the medical care facility, enterprise fund, and the land bank authority. The second So the second report that gets issued as part of the audit is the single audit. Within that single audit is it's considered to be the federal compliance audit, and it's required because you have over 750,000 of expenditures and federal awards. That audit was conducted along with the audit. You had in the past year, you had about $5.8 million in federal awards that were spent. And of that, we end up going through a risk assessment process, and we select 2 different programs where we do compliance testing. That was the WIC program and the Child Support Enforcement Program. Both of those were considered to be, we issued unmodified opinions, which means we didn't have there was material non-compliance, and actually we only had one small issue of non-compliance that's included in the report. We also, on the financial statement side, had a finding, but both of those issues we went over with management. We don't see, those were kind of one-time issues that can easily be corrected and that we don't anticipate being repeated, and that can easily be cleared up by the next year. And then the last document that you would have is the SAS letter, and which is the independent auditors communication with those charged with governance. That letter includes various items within it that just outlines what we've done. It's required communications. It's kind of one of those letters that is designed so that if there's anything out of the ordinary, we would report it to you in that letter. But there was nothing out of the ordinary. There are a couple of different attachments on it. There's a couple of comments that are items that could be addressed. Again, management. We've worked with Kelly and Gerald and talked through those things and working on a plan of action to address those couple of items. And then also in that, if you're curious about upcoming the changes in standards, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board is constantly addressing new issues and putting new standards in place. They actually issued a standard in the midst of the pandemic that actually extended deadlines for all of their, or implementation dates for all of their standards, and pushed them out a year, so there's more time to implement. While we're talking about the standards, there was one new standard that was implemented this year, GASB 84 on fiduciary activities. You'll see some different terminology and new custodial funds that are reported. That was the one of the bigger changes that happened this year. So that's all I have really specifically. Again, I apologize just with the technology, that thing, and the environment we're in. Not able to walk it through the same way that we would in person, but if there's, any questions tonight, or for that matter, if there's any questions you have at a later time, feel free to get with Kelly to get my contact information, and, I'd be happy to have a conversation offline as well. That was all I had specifically for a presentation. But again, I'd be happy to answer questions.
So Steve, you're still on mute, Steve Frisbee. I'll just add, just to remind the commissioners that we did, according to our regular purchasing cycle, we did a competitive bid for audit firms last year and selected Raymond. We had used Raymond previously, which is what Nate was mentioning, for many, many years, switched to a different firm for the past few years. We're happy to have them back, and just, thank you for them being able to get it done timely and work remotely. And I think that there's nothing that we have in our 200-page report that they can't handle. Raymond is one of the largest firms that handles most of the local governments in Michigan. And I just want to mention also that we do have the paper bound reports for all of the commissioners, if and when you would like those. And just a reminder, we also did a summary of the general fund, at least 2019, and the road department preliminary results. And those didn't change from what we presented a couple of months ago to the final audit. So as far as the financial performance, I felt like we've covered that and really just wanted the auditors to assure you that they got their job done and looked over our financial statements and were able to confirm that they were an accurate reflection of the county's finances.
Okay. Any commissioners with questions? All right. I'll entertain a motion to accept and file the 2019 audit report as presented.
So moved, Tompkins.
Support Betty.
Moved by Tompkins, supported by Betty. Any discussion? We'll continue to just do roll call votes. Susan?
Okay. Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we'll move on. Commissioner Smith has requested this proclamation, and I'm going to have Commissioner Hatcher read it into the record regarding National Women's Suffrage Month. Take it away, Commissioner.
Okay, sorry about that, Steve. I'm just trying to get up on my screen where I can see it. The actual proclamation, do we have that? I'm sorry, on the screen? You guys see that?
It's up to right there. There you go.
Okay. Here we go. I'm trying to see if it's opening for me. Oh. Well, if someone can get it open, I obviously can't get it open. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Smith, do you have that open?
Yeah, I'd be happy to take it away.
Okay, would you
ahead.
please, Jake? Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I first want to apologize. Look like I'm having some webcam issues here too, but it's probably for everybody's benefit. They don't have to look at my mug. So, and I also want to thank Judith Douglas from the American Association of University Women Battle Creek branch, I believe is on the call right now too. So Judith is welcome to say some words here when we're all done as well too. If you're still with us, just raise your hand there in the on the screen. So anyhow, proclamation is as follows. Whereas the bold, courageous, and powerful women who fought for the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution on August 26, 1920 deserve special celebrations, especially on the 100th anniversary of its ratification in 2020. And whereas the right to vote is the cornerstone of our democracy and a fundamental right upon which all of our civil liberties rest. And whereas the 19th Amendment did not guarantee suffrage for all women, including Native Americans who did not gain the right to vote until 1924, Asian Pacific Islander Americans, 1952, African American and Latin Americans suffered voter suppression until the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and 1975. And whereas the fact that today women are active in local, state, and national government and are running for office in unprecedented numbers reminds us that we follow in the footsteps of these resolute American suffragists. And whereas the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution has played an important role in advancing the right of all women. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Calhoun County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims August 2020 as National Women's Suffrage Month, celebrating the 100th anniversary of the passage and ratification of the 19th Amendment, providing for women's suffrage to the Constitution of the United States. Signed by Board Chair Steve Frisbee.
Man, yes.
Thank you. I'll accept a motion to proclaim the National Women's
Support.
Suffrage Month as presented.
So moved, Hatcher.
Support, Betty.
Motion by Hatcher, support by Vetty. Any discussion? Have a voice vote. Actually, roll call, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
Motion carries. And I believe Judith Douglas is going to potentially speak here. You want to promote her in, Dane?
She's all set to talk.
Judith?
I think she has her mic unmuted or muted there. I'm sorry. Judith, you have your mic muted. When you get a sec, if you just unmute it, you should be able to speak.
I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
We can now. Thank you. Go ahead. Judith? You're unmuted. We're not hearing you. Mhm. All right. Judith, we still can't hear you. All right, we'll move along. Judith, if you want to submit for the record some written comments, we'd be more than happy to take those. Just send them in to county administration and we'll make sure they're part of the record. We'll move along. Consent agenda. We have 2 items on the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. King.
Support, Betty.
Motion by King, support by Betty. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
Motion carries. Any special committee, workshop, or board reports commissioners want to report on?
Chair Frisbee.
Go ahead.
Hi there. This is Commissioner Betty. I wanted to make a update for you all on the executive committee for Summit Point. We had, unfortunately, a board member resign, Deb Davis. She's been with us a couple, 3 years, and apparently she still is working in the area, but she has moved and is no longer living in Calhoun County. So that was her reason for resignation from the board. And so that left a vacancy on the executive committee. She was serving as the secretary. So we, at our August board meeting, elected Dr. Terrence Lunger to fill that position. And I wanted to update you all on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner King.
Thank you, Chair Frisbee. The Budget Committee had a virtual meeting today. I'm sure Kelly will speak of that. Ultimately, we talked about revenues and
or revenues lack thereof, and some of the effects of COVID-19 on the budgets and whatnot. Also, I think all the funds now have been distributed from the local revenue sharing board. Signed some checks last week. I think I'm the secretary of that board, so I'm one of the signers, and Kelly came out to the office and did that. And we've been getting a lot of positive feedback to local revenue sharing board from the local units of government that each got a $5,000 one-time gift. You know, when you start talking about budgets that are $3, $4, $5 million in the red, $5,000 doesn't seem like much. But when you talk about a township that, you know, a single mill only raises $40,000, $50,000, and then they get a $5,000 one-time gift, it's a big deal to them. So the small townships especially are very grateful. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller.
Yeah, I was at Eckford Township, Derek, and they're really appreciative of that revenue sharing, that extra $5,000 that could go a long way for their small township. So an update, there is going to be still some livestock shows at our fair. I don't know details on every single show because everybody's different, but they're going to still continue to have their pig show on the 15th. It'll be a Saturday, and the 16th they'll have their beef show. As far as I know, there's no auction this year, so that's all I have.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'll give you a little update on the health department. We had our initial budget meeting last week. I think we're on track there. We do have some shortfalls, but I think we're going to be able to figure out those pretty rapidly as well. So the funding there seems to be a little bit more solid due to COVID. So we'll have that wrapped up into everybody hopefully by the end of August, so that we can vote on that in September. As you know, they follow the state's budget year, which begins October 1st. Anybody else? All right, there's no unfinished business. We'll go to new business and the county administrator's report. I'll turn it over to Kelly Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A few highlights from my update report, which will be in your inbox first thing tomorrow morning. I definitely share the excitement for the success of the senior millage renewal and the new parks millage. I'm really just humbled and proud to be part of such a great team. Helen and Doug and Richard Lindsay and all of them, with Jen Bomba's oversight, just put in so much time educating the public. And with the parks millage specifically, it wasn't really about fundraising, it was about education. And so I think that's a good sign that the voters, or a majority of the voters, have faith in the county's ability to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. And we will definitely put those to good use. The senior millage is getting close to $3 million, and the new parks millage is about $750,000. Again, half of that will go to all of the local governments, whether or not they have current parks, to be able to enhance the outdoor activities for our residents. Some board and committee updates. The SWIMBA Substance Use Disorder Oversight Policy Board met on July 20. Our representatives there are Commissioners Vetty and Tompkins. So we are getting to the point where we need to be working on the alcohol tax PA2 budget for next year, that fiscal year, just like the health department also starts on October 1st. I guess the good news, if you can call it that, is the state is projecting a small increase in the alcohol tax that goes to treatment and prevention services for substance use disorders within our county. The MEDA, Marshall Area Economic Development Alliance Board, met on July 21. And following that meeting, we're happy to have selected a new CEO, James Durian. He should be starting soon and be able to hit the ground running. I guess I don't need to follow. Yeah, one follow up on the Firekeepers Local Revenue Sharing Board, and this is for Commissioner Tompkins. I did get one of the checks returned, and that was for Homer Township. I got the address list from the State Department of Treasury, And apparently the one for Homer Township was inaccurate. So if you hear Homer Township saying, where's my 5,000 or not, please let them know. We just need to put the correct address and get that back out to them.
Will do so. Thank you.
Thank you. One follow-up to Summit Point. With the board meeting that met on this past Monday, August 4, we approved some contracts to implement new financial software, and then also contracts related to the very large national grant that Summit Point is working on. We also discussed acquisition of real property in a closed session. So a lot of big projects going on with Summit Point as part of the overall goal to integrate physical health, mental health services in our county. And another piece of good news is that we're hearing that because mental health services are so important, the state has apparently not targeted funding that would come to Summit Point as one of the areas to be cut in order to balance the state's budget, which they need to do because of shortfalls due to COVID. So that was good news. The Native American Heritage Fund Board met last Friday. Actually, it's July 31st. We delayed the normal grant application process to distribute that $500,000 that comes from the state out of their share of the Firekeepers Net Win. We delayed the grant process because a lot of the applications come from school districts and the timing was just bad with them all shutting down this spring. So we're just now starting that. The grant application just got posted on the Native American Heritage Fund website last week. Press release went out today, and we hope to get that all allocated by the end of November. So really, I guess that's it. Derek mentioned the budget process for next year has started. We're on track. We are expecting, if our local revenues rebound, we are expecting to see some cuts from the state due to COVID. And, we're hoping that somehow we can have that flexibility with the federal stimulus to help next year's budget. But without that, it's a pretty significant deficit starting next year. And we'll be sending out that information to all of our elected officials and department heads on Monday so that they can begin to submit their budgets for next year. I guess finally, to complete my report, I just want to welcome and thank Sue Connolly and Jim Dyer for us. Sue already has a full-time job as the assistant to our corporation counsel, and she has, I don't know about graciously, but she has agreed to support the county board and county administration and has really done a great job just in the last couple of days. So appreciate her being there tonight, and please be patient, but also please feel free to reach out to Sue. It's the same county administration number. We didn't change that. Sue is answering those calls, and we're both fielding emails, and I don't think any service should suffer as a result of our staffing vacancy. So thank you again to you all. So with that, we're ready for new business for tonight. And the first item of new business is 12B1. We have a very large board packet tonight. If you're using the PDF, it's over 500 pages, mainly because of the audit and then the claims payable. But this item starts on page 276. It's really just a 3-year renewal of the contract that we have had in place since 2012 with SWMBA, Southwest Michigan Behavioral Health. So they are the state designated regional entity to coordinate our substance use disorder funding, state and federal funding. And specifically, this contract is to set forth the policy board that I reported on earlier. So the oversight of the PA2 budget and the ability for us to appoint 2 of our board members. Right now we have Betty and Tompkins again. There's 8 counties that are part of this contract, and we get a different number of representatives based on our population. So there were no changes to the contract at all, other than it expires at the end of December, and SWMA is asking and requiring all 8 counties boards to pass a resolution authorizing us to sign a new contract.
Can I have a motion to approve the renewed intergovernmental contract between Southwest Michigan Behavioral Health Regional Entity, SWMBA, Berry County, Berrien County, Branch County, Cass County, Calhoun County, Kalamazoo County, St. Joseph County, and Van Buren County as presented.
So moved, Tompkins.
Support Betty.
A motion support. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Betty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Abstain. I have a conflict of interest here as an employee of SWIMBA.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins.
Yes.
We have 6 yes and 1 abstain.
And that's a good abstention. So we appreciate you doing that, Jake. Motion carries.
Okay, next item 12B2 starts on page 286. This is similar to the submittal of the county's financial audit. This is a required financial report, Act 51 for the road department for the fiscal year ended December 2019. Act 51, as you know, governs the state appropriations to road agencies. So MDOT is our agency. They require the county board to certify the submission. It really just summarizes the financial condition, and it matches information that is included in the 200-page countywide audit that was also attached tonight. I'll give you some quick high-level highlights, and then I also want to note, in addition to having the entire report as part of your packet, Shannon Rose from the road department has summarized the information nicely. Total revenues, total expenditures by type in some graphs that starts on page 315. Overall, it was a positive year for the road department. They ended the fiscal year with $800,000 in cash, $2.5 million in fund balance. The county owns over $90 million net of depreciation in capital assets. About half of that is in roads itself, the road infrastructure. So for the fiscal year 2019, the road department had 22 million in revenues. About 14 million of that was from the state. We had a little over $1.2 million come from the townships last year. So we're remaining at a much higher level than before we started modifying the policies and really building that relationship with our townships. On the expenditure side, it was 9 million. It sounds like deficit spending, but again, it was based on the road department issued bonds in 2017. So that was carried over and spent during 2019. There was $9 million of structural improvements, so long-term road improvements. There was 11 million in maintenance, which includes both winter maintenance and pothole patching. Another highlight, there's some statistical information in Act 51. And one of those that we've been watching over the years because it was really problematic in 2012 when the road commission was dissolved is the fringe benefits factor. So for the road department employees, if you take $1 of their wages and then you add up all of what the fringe benefits cost, it was over $1 of fringes for every dollar about 8 years ago. For 2019, through some of the strategies that we've employed, that is now down to 70% of fringe benefit factor. It's still higher than county employees, mainly because of the retiree health insurance, but we're definitely making strides there. And then the overhead factor is similar. That adds up all of the road department's overhead costs compared to all of their spending. And as a proportion, overhead costs are only about 0.66%, so less than about 2/3 of 1%. So there's some also information at the end of the Act 51 report that reports on how many miles of road improvements happened, or about 60 miles of road improvements, 52 miles primary, 7 local. There were 12 bridges improved over the past year. So again, I think pretty positive financial results, and feel free to read all of that in more detail, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Can I have a motion to approve the submission of the Calhoun County Road Department Annual Financial Report, Act 51, to the state of Michigan as presented?
So moved, Smith.
Moved by Smith,
Support, Betty.
supported by Vetti. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yep.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetti.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, just want to mention, as I mentioned, Shannon Rose from the road department, I believe is with us tonight. John Midgley was here, needed to jump off with a call for family reasons, but I want to thank him for his leadership on the road department. And then our 2 deputy controllers in finance, Megan Banning and Gerald Shepke, also oversee the financial operations at the road department. So moving on, item 12B3, the normal monthly financial statements, and these would be through the end of June, so halfway through the fiscal year. At this point, we're reporting on the revenue side. Revenues are about $1.5 million lower than last year, and that's expected mainly due to COVID. Expenses are also down, but by a lesser amount, by about $600,000, and that does reflect savings that from the building closures, not closing the buildings, but from not occupying so much of the buildings and from the furloughs and work share program. So really we'll cover more of the financials when we go to the next item, which is the mid-year budget adjustment, because that reflects, where we've been through June. So that would be all I would mention on the June financials, again, prepared by Megan Banning, our deputy controller.
Can I have a motion to approve the June 2020 financial statements as presented?
So moved, Tompkins.
Support, Hatcher.
I have a motion support. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetti,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
The last item under new business tonight is 12B4, and I'll do a little better job for Dane on pointing out page numbers. 368 is just the cover memo. This item is being brought to you in accordance with policy 275. It's a normal item that we bring every year at this time to do a mid-year review and adjust the budget, make sure that we are taking steps to avoid ending with a deficit by the end of the year. So the first thing I would highlight is page 369. That's the general fund line item detail. And what's most interesting is on the right-hand column, and I know this is small on this screen, but there are notes that describe, so on the left, anything that says Fund 101, that's our general fund. On the right-hand side, you can see revenues that have increased and decreased and expenses that have increased and decreased, but you can see a lot of them note COVID. And so our overall increase for both revenues and expenses, and I increase is 600,000 from what the board originally approved. And that really just factors in the effects of increased COVID expenses and then funding that we have received or expect to receive to cover that. So again, we ran the Joint Operations Center expenses through our budget. Just overall, that's what we're seeing is a reflected increase of that. There are factored in on the revenue side. If you sorted out all the pluses and minuses, what this really is, the picture that it's really painting is we are expecting about $3.2 million of revenue shortage for this year. And we're hoping that through the CARES funding and other COVID funding, that will be covered so that we'll actually end up with being able to have 600,000 more in revenue to match up with the expenses. You'll see on the expense side that the furloughs were about $400,000 savings. Building operating costs, utilities, et cetera, were about 400,000 in savings. So we're actually expecting this year for the general fund, assuming all of the CARES funding comes through, to be able to end with a positive fund balance in the general fund without any other drastic measures. And I'm hoping we'll hear very soon about the CARES funding, but I believe the state has until the middle of September to notify those grant awards. Then on page 371 starts the list of our other special revenue funds, those that are required to be budgetary funds. We've also included, and there are some of those that have some pretty significant COVID impacts as well. For example, hotel accommodations tax is expected to be down by about $500,000. And most of that gets passed through to the agencies throughout the county that support tourism. Solid waste fund, just because lower recycling activity, is expected to be down by about 50,000. In the other funds, within the other funds, you'll also see CARES funding that we applied for the health department. Our health department is accounted for in separate funds, special revenue funds outside of the general fund. Another thing I just wanted to mention we brought to you earlier was the EPA grant to clean up the mound in Bear Creek that's next to our Justice Center. That EPA grant of $700,000 was not originally budgeted. That's now factored in right now. And then I'll just end with the road department, which is page 374. Road department, also there is a wonderful PowerPoint presentation and a summary. The summary is actually page 385 if you wanted to just skip to the bottom line. The bottom line with the road department is we ended up budgeting a little bit lower for the bonds to be issued than what we ended up issuing the full amount that was authorized for the Emmett Township bond improvements and enough to do a little bit more road improvements. Definitely reduced revenues, about 1.6 million due to COVID from the gas tax. But then, being able to delay a little bit of capital purchases and leverage the bond funding meant that the road department also is able to increase their expectation for this year, the bottom line, by about $800,000. So the projected fund balance for the road department is that they will end this year with $1 million in the fund balance of unrestricted, and then another $6 million, which would be reserved to carry forward to finish out the Emmett Township project. Another interesting piece, which I'm sorry, I'm jumping back a little, is page 380 and 382. They show something that I'm not sure you're aware of, which is the impact of the new marijuana taxes that are coming. You can see on that page that the state funding that we're getting is now gas tax registration and also a cut of the statewide marijuana tax. And so, whereas we are right now this year projecting 13 million from the state to the road department, by 2 years from now, by 2022, it jumps up to 15 million. And some of that is just the dedication of marijuana tax, which I guess I wasn't really focused on. And then page 382 goes through the list of how many miles of different types of work is the road department projecting to do this year. So really all they had to cut out of their budget was some work on the primary roads that John had hoped to do. But by leveraging the bond funding and then continuing to seek all of those grant funds, really not as huge of a drastic impact as we thought maybe. Also factored in, of course, is the savings from their furlough program in maintaining some vacancies and staffing, and then just hoping that this winter, the end of this winter, is not terrible. So that's the high level of the mid-year budget adjustment, and again, be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Can I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 2020 mid-year budget amendments for the general fund and several special revenue funds as presented?
So moved, Miller.
Support, Betty.
A motion support. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yeah.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Betty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is citizens' time. The same rules apply as during the first citizens' time. Please limit your time to 3 minutes and no negative personal comments. Please mute your TV or computer when calling in, as the background sound will generate feedback. Please note there's an approximately 30-second delay in the live meeting and the YouTube feed. Dane, is anyone? There's one hand raised.
Yes, we have a Julie Pio.
Julie Piak. Hi, Julie.
Piak.
Hi there, Steve. Can you hear me?
We can.
I heard Commissioner Miller mention the live shows that would be presented for the fair with beef and I think you said swine. But so I felt compelled to mention that we're also offering through 4-H programming a virtual option for youth to showcase their events for the fair. You know, our youth have gone through a lot, right? And so many things have been taken away from them. But Kathy has partnered with her cohorts in Branch and Calhoun counties to offer a virtual showcase. And so that's going on right now. And our young people in 4-H are able to upload their projects into a format whereby they'll be judged on August 12th or August 14th. They have to August 12th to upload their projects. And they're offering projects, anything from patterns for the horse and dog shows to food and vegetables and all the crafts that are done by the youth. So I just wanted to mention that it's got some really good press in the county. So I've been really impressed that people have caught on to Kathy's press releases, and you may have seen some of those local, I think in the Shopper, for example, they did a really nice piece on the virtual auction or virtual showcase as well as 4-H. So I thought it was worth highlighting that. And I also want to do a shout out to Jen and the team in the community development department. I was so thrilled. I couldn't sleep election night, and I'm so sure some of you were along with me just to see what the outcome was going to be on a lot of elections. But for the Parks Millage to pass, I think that is just incredible. And they worked really hard on that. So I just want to do a shout out to the team and to Jen and Doug and the whole crew and the senior millage as well. So just wanted to say how proud I was of my colleagues in the department, and just to let you know about the virtual showcase for 4-H for the fair. So thanks.
Julie, how would people find that?
Find the showcase?
Yeah.
Well, it's an internal program to the 4-H members.
Okay.
But I can have Kathy send you some information. So it's not something that folks will view until the kids, the youth's projects are judged.
Yep.
And once they're judged, then all the results will be shared publicly.
Awesome. Just let us know what that is and we'd be happy to share that.
Yeah, sure. Will
All
do.
right. Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else like to address their commissioners? Anyone in the queue, Zane? Is it Dane? I'm sorry. Not Zane. It's Dane.
Nope. No
I've
one
called
so
you 3
far.
names tonight.
Oh, you're fine. Nope, we don't have anybody raising their hand, and we don't have anybody except normal county employees in there. So.
All right, we'll wait just a little bit here. All right, we'll move along. Commissioners' time. Any commissioners? Tommy Miller.
Yes, first of all, I wish my daughter a happy 13th birthday, Randy Miller.
Happy birthday.
And I'm pleased to announce that Burlington Township did pass 2 mills for the roads. I think we're coming a long way, slowly but surely. I just hope that Jeff Fire contacted me. He just got elected as the Wellington Township Supervisor. He's real excited about it. He's willing to work with the road department. I really hope that our staff will work with these townships and kind of listen to some of their ideas of what they have to do with the roads and not just have our engineering department tell us exactly what they need done, because there's a lot of people out there that have some construction experience that do have good ideas also. And so I'm really happy that we did get more townships on board. I think in the future, we can keep on getting more and more involved. The other thing is I'm still waiting on some responses, some questions from corporate counsel. It's been well over a month since I've asked some questions. I'm not sure which direction to go to next. So thank you.
We'll follow up on those tomorrow. Anybody else? All right, I had a couple things. First of all, congratulations, Commissioner Miller, on your victory on Tuesday. And the other thing would be great job by Kelly, administration and finance, to not kick a can down the road and take action to save us dollars right out of the gate with COVID. It's very evident it was a hard choice to make with furloughs and things like that. But all the steps that they've taken are going to pay off in the long run, and we appreciate you being willing to make some tough decisions. And to our staff who had to endure the furloughs. Now, they really didn't have to endure much with the federal relief, but normally a furlough has a negative connotation. So we appreciate you stepping up and leading that effort. All right. Anybody else? Claims payable. I have a motion to approve the claims payable for July 10th, 2020, July 30th, 2020, in the amount of $3,573,729.63 as presented.
So moved by Miller.
Support by Betty.
I have a motion support. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Betty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
Motion carries. Are there any announcements? All right, seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
You, everyone, be safe.
You too.
Yes.
Good night, all.
Yep.
All right.
Tommy, you have fun. You have fun dealing with that teenager.
Yeah.